4th, 2019 Morton Borough of Morton Council, Morton Borough Council agenda meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're welcome. Before we start, I'd just like to give best thoughts to those that have been affected by Hurricane Dorian and those on the East Coast that are in harm's way. The notable damage. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mario Savino.
Here.
Michelle Miller.
Here.
Michelle Roberts.
Present.
Natalie Young.
Here.
Robert McGrath.
Here.
John Miller, absent. Charlie Lillicrest.
Here.
Mayor Act.
Present.
Also present, Sir Ewald, Chief Spina, Sergeant Rothstein, and that's it.
Thank you. Public comment. Oh, sorry.
Before the public comment, I would then advise that they would like to add a discussion of whether alcohol, like beverages, should be allowed at borough-sponsored events to the Community and Economic Development agenda section.
Public comment on agenda items. If anyone would like to comment on items that are on the agenda, you can approach the names over there now. If anyone would like to bring other business before council, we'll take that up during the open discussion period later in the meeting. Seeing no one at this time, we'll go on to our agenda topics, starting with public buildings and infrastructure. And Mrs. Miller, please.
Good evening. This morning, we received 2 bids as we had to rebid the roads, the road work that we proposed for this year. So A.F. Damon came in at $53,010, and Joseph Suker and Sons came in at $42,640. We actually have around $30,000 available. So next week, Mr. Catania will go over the list of the roads that we proposed, and we'll adjust it accordingly. And then whatever is left over, whatever roads don't get done this year, will be put on for next year. And if anybody has any questions about that, we'll go on. Okay. Secondly, we got some good news. The bid that the police department put in via, I know with the help or the assistance of our state rep, Jennifer O'Mara, they received their grant proposal for $60,000. They are getting the money. Actually, we actually received the voucher for it. So now I guess we need to authorize bids on those jobs. Mr. Poole, is there anything in particular?
No, just as a reminder, Mr. Catania had met with the police and gone over what their needs were and everything. There was a preliminary plan that was put together that went along with the package. So at this point, it's basically an authorization to have them finalize the plans and then prepare that for bid, because we were kind of surprised when we got the contract back, we actually got a full invoice, so they will give us all of the $60,000 up front. So that's why we want to try and get this thing rolling as quickly as possible, so.
Do we have to have the grant agreement signed?
It's already been signed.
It's been signed.
Yep, yep.
All right,
So that will be taken care of
Next week.
by you?
Yeah, that would be
Whatever.
next week. Yep.
Okay, so that's good news for all of us.
Yes.
And then we also wanted to discuss authorizing proposals for a 2-year supplemental snow removal services contract. This is just in case we have a lot of snow, or like a snowstorm, or one of our workers maybe is out ill or something, so that we have somebody else to help clean the roads. We tried to do this last year, but it was late in the season, so we want to get a little head start on it. So we wanted to authorize, I guess we run an ad or we put a proposal.
Actually, it's just a proposal, so that's what it is. And if you remember, that was one of the responses we got back last year, was that 1 year is relatively uncommon, that usually it's a 2-year, and we probably get more people and better prices, so that's what we're going on. And again, it's just something that we hold off to the side in case we need it. We don't spend any money until we need them. So.
And I don't remember how it was worded last year, but it was noted that there's one thing to just have somebody plow, but another thing to do any removal, to have a backhoe or whatever available.
It was fully explained, right. I mean, the engineer went through and basically
Okay.
put together a two-page scope of work, so,
Okay.
yep, for services.
So we'll be advertising that and looking forward to receiving those proposals probably by this time next month.
Next month, yep.
Yeah. And other than that, that's, I believe, all that I have. Well, one more thing I'll just mention. On the 12th, and a week from this coming Thursday, or tomorrow, Plain County Community Service Crew available here, and anyone else who'd like to help to weed the rain gardens and do a little bit of other yard work around the building here. And if we do have extra plants, if we decide to clean some of them out, thin them out, I'd like to take them over to Jacobs and perhaps plant some there. So if anybody feels like they'd like to come over for a half hour or 3 hours or whatever, I'll be here with Jamie Anderson from like 8:30 to 3 on Thursday the 12th. That's it.
All right, thank you. Finance Administration, Mr. Lillicrap, please.
Finance Administration, at the budget meeting, I'll give in writing to members of the Finance Committee and also in the attendance, everybody else, some issues that I wouldn't consider, but that would be, I think, maybe the best way I could do it, everybody can. I did get some information to members of the Finance Committee tonight. I'll like to talk to that before we leave and say what I'd like to do and move on that to maybe whether you want to go with. So that's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you.
Before we move on,
Yes.
did you confirm any dates for the budget meeting? 'Cause I know,
Dates for the budget meetings.
any dates?
It's the third and fourth Wednesday.
You want to start this month?
Are you starting
September.
Okay.
September the
Yeah, we had said that.
18th?
Yeah, we,
In August,
it's
Yeah, September the 18th would be the first one. And at 7,
7 o'clock.
run them for an hour.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Public safety. Mr. Poole, do you want to take up the item on the used police vehicle?
Well, actually, I'll leave it to the chief, because the chief actually is the one who put it out on this bid, so.
Yeah.
So we put the 2008 Crown Victoria out on this bid for public auction, and the auction will end, should end Tuesday, and present a final bid to council for the removal.
What's
At
that
that time. Yes. Right now, the bid is somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,200 with final bids.
Anything else to report, Chief?
Not at this time.
Mr. Mayor?
I do not.
End of an era.
Pardon me? Yes.
I would be proud of this. No more rear-wheel drive. All right, we'll go on to community and economic development. Mr. McGrath, please.
Thank you. The first,
Actually, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the first item relates to the Delco Greenways resolution, and Mr. McGrath has recused himself from this conversation.
yeah, I was just going to pass it over to Mrs. Miller.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Is there anything to add to, Mr. Ewald, to add to the resolution besides just,
So this is a required part of the application for the Delco Greenways grant program. And under that program, the way we've calculated out the maximum amount that we are allowed to spend would be $50,000 on the program with a required $5,000 match from the borough, which can be in the form of in-kind services, meaning the money that you pay your engineer or your solicitor or whatever, or if your codes department goes out and performs the work. In this case, it would be there's going to be some engineering fees required in order to accomplish the transfer in the event that we are awarded the grant. The requirement is that you put forth a 10% match. So this is a resolution that says that you're authorizing Pool to prepare the paperwork to apply for the grant, and that you're committing that if the grant is approved, you would allocate $5,000 towards that, towards that enterprise. And the proposed project is the acquisition of the land abutting the park. It's approximately 10,400 square feet, which would increase the size of Sycamore Woods and tie together the borough top lot a little bit better with Sycamore Woods.
Okay.
Question,
Yeah.
any expenses involved, title insurance and so forth, responsibility of the borough?
So, yes, but that would go towards that $5,000 that you're authorizing.
Now, we have a verbal agreement, buyer or seller to accept or reject the appraised value of real estate, is that where we are?
We have, so at this point, we would need to, the offer would be that the borough can give up to $50,000, and we would need an answer by tomorrow morning from the landowner, who is Mr. McGrath.
We're going to accept the appraisal at face value regardless of what it
Well, no, the maximum under the program we can
Well,
do
what
is
is it?
$50,000.
is. Even if it's less than that.
Well, so if
It's
the appraisal,
automatic.
if the appraisal is less than that, then it would be less than that. But if the appraisal is more than that, the borough can't go over.
I realize, but whatever figure comes in at, that's what we accept, that's what I'm asking.
Right.
Is that what you're saying? Provide us less than 50,000.
If it's less than 50,000, yes.
Okay. And, but council can approve or not approve depending on their vote, right, as far as that goes?
Well, this is, we have to submit the application Friday, so, but the.
Talking about value.
Right, but the indication that I have is that the value will not be below $50,000. So,
Beg your pardon?
the value would not be below $50,000 is the indication that I have. We don't have a formal appraisal yet. We ordered it 2 weeks ago, but the indication I have is that it won't be below.
So then the borough would have to make up the remaining.
Well, no, the offer is $50,000 is the offer that you'd be making, and you would be responsible for $5,000, which would be like the land title and the engineering fees, because it requires a lot line change, so you're gonna have to have plans drawn, and it requires a subdivision application, so you're gonna have to send, act for, what's the act number? You're gonna have to send an act, 438, I think is the number, to plan.
I don't think we get charged. That's what I was just thinking, because we're a municipality, at least we don't pay on that end with the subdivision application, at least. So.
Yeah, but you will have to pay Charles.
Correct.
Yeah, to prepare the
On the
documents.
subdivision, obviously, it seemed to me that any elected person couldn't sit on that, neither could the planning commission, right?
Say that again?
Planning commission could not rule on that because, well, I mean, in my case, as an elected official, I wouldn't be able to sit on that, right? I would think it'd be.
Is that zoning or planning?
Let me get back to you on whether our planning commission would be able, since, in the event that you would vote in order to submit the application, let me get back to you.
Can council vote provided within, within the law? Can we just have the county go over, let them approve?
Right, I
Disapprove?
think you can just rely on the county planning commission's letter in the event that the planning commission couldn't reach a quorum. But in the end, I think that the county planning commission will not, or will, would support a application that means that you're moving lot lines in order to add them into a park.
Any other questions?
I do have two questions.
Yeah.
Bob might know the answer to this. If we purchase that land, does it change the tax income for the borough by very much or very little? Or?
I would not think so. I mean, not by that much, because it is ground. I mean, even, you know, but yeah, I mean, most of that would be the building itself rather than the
So we
ground.
won't be making a big loss by purchasing that.
No, a couple $100.
Okay, and the other thing is, I just wanted to make sure again, this could not possibly interfere with our grant being approved.
No, for the CBG. No, that's already approved. We've already gotten that, so this will not change that in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
In fact, what we're hoping to do is kind of layer this on top of it.
We're gonna call it phase 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are not opening that, we're not, you know, and we're very clear about that. You know, that's already been allocated and approved.
Thank you.
The percentage of footage that it's adding to that, I think sort of overrides whatever little bit of taxes may be coming from it, because it's adding like, what, to 20% to the park?
Over 20%,
Yeah.
so, yeah, approximately 24%
Yeah.
increase
So
to the
almost-
Sycamore
yeah,
Woods
almost-
portion.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, that, you know, that's a good thing. So are there any more questions? If not, I'll make a motion for resolution 2019-06, authorizing the application of the 1219 Delco Greenways Open Space and Recreation Municipal Grant Program for the Sycamore Woods Recreation and Land Acquisition Project. Is there a second?
Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
I think Mrs. Young had that last time. And are there any questions on the motion as it's been made? All right, roll call.
Yes.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Mario Semino,
Yes.
Michelle Miller,
Yes.
Michelle Roberts,
Yes.
Natalie Young,
Yes.
Charlie Lillycrap,
Yes.
That's 5, right? Motion carries.
5-0, that's what we have here. Yep.
Okay. All right, motion carries, thank you.
Mr. McGrath.
Back to Mr. McGrath.
Well, it was a long time without talking, I guess. Anyway, all right, now I'll get back to beating up the population. Okay, let's go ahead with this. All right, we established the DDRPC Safe Routes to Transit Morton Steering Committee. In the discussions we've had, we pretty much have gone with the suggestion that Mr. Poole made, which is basically like the Morton Connects Steering Committee, basically the same way.
Do we have a resident that's interested? Not as far as we know.
Not yet.
All right, so
Is there anybody in the room who would like to be involved in this?
well, we can
Just-
defer it till next week and
Yeah,
discuss
okay.
it members for next week.
All right.
See if we can
I have a suggestion of someone, but we have to look up their name and their company.
Okay. We'll get by next week.
All right, so we'll put that on the agenda again for next week to have a motion to establish the steering committee.
Okay, so Morton Day is coming up. And did you, excuse me, but I saw some food. So we're going in the direction of getting some possible food trucks. And, okay, and we're interviewing some different acts, and the band is lined up. What else is going on? Oh, yeah, now, here's the thing. Because we are having a beer garden, and because the current ordinance on parks does not permit alcohol on premises, I'm going to be making a motion to establish an ordinance that allows alcohol at borough events.
Well, to clarify, there's a proposal to have a beer garden, and we would need to amend the ordinance in order for that to be possible. Is that correct, Mr. Ewell?
Yes.
Excuse me, universally, or is this one time?
You know, the thing is, I was originally going for one time, but now it looks kind of like we're basically just going towards setting a new ordinance. Can you add something to that?
Well, it would be, I mean, at this point, you're looking to direct this, the motion's to direct the solicitor's office to prepare the ordinance and the ordinance in order for you to consider it for advertisement next month. So I could look into whether we could phrase an ordinance in a way to make it a only one-time thing, if that's, you know, if you wanted to see a couple of alternatives.
Or maybe subject to each proposal being approved by council.
Right, I think that was the direction that Mr. McGrath was going
Universal,
in.
that, you know, anytime you can just set it up and approve, you know.
No, it would only be, you know, with the approval of Borough Council for borough-sponsored events, is what is currently being proposed.
And it's next week, we would need to advertise it.
So next week, I would draft it over the next week and on, at the agenda meeting, or at the legislative meeting next week, you would determine whether you advertise it for consideration at your October meeting.
To clarify, this is for the sale of alcohol, not BYOB or sponsored events.
Both, actually.
Both,
Did you say?
I would say, I mean, we're gonna have it in the ordinance. I mean, you know, and if it's in the ordinance that council has to still approve on a per event basis, and that's in the ordinance, then that frees us up to use the ordinance as we go forward. We don't have to like set a new ordinance and vote again and, you know, do all that other stuff. We can just say, okay, we're gonna have this event, we're gonna do this, and we'll decide at that particular point. So that would serve the short-term objective and also prepare us for things going into the future.
my only concern there is that there's a lot more control over the sale of alcohol by a vendor than there is if you open it up to BYOB and residents can just bring their own to borough-sponsored events. I
Well,
mean,
and actually, I believe that anytime you have alcohol served, how I guess even our insurance carrier says this, is that you have to have a competent adult, which could be hiring a policeman, or it could be you or I, to oversee the use or the pouring or the sale. It doesn't have to be necessarily a bartender, or it doesn't have to be a police person.
There's going to have to be a written policy around that then.
I think we ought to think long and hard about this one.
I mean, if we're doing something now as a temporary thing and then reconsidering, because I know that it's been brought up to be reconsidered, the ordinance with regard to the use in public parks to begin with. If this is just to get something through in time for Morton Day consideration, you know, maybe it's something to revisit with a little more thought, you know, in advance of any other event, you know? Like, that's just my thought, because the BYOB, I think, seems a little more lenient than, say, you know, the sale.
Yeah, I would share that concern.
In a public park, it's abnormal to allow alcohol beverage.
Yeah, but that's in Pennsylvania. Different states are different ways about it.
That's in Pennsylvania, that's where we are.
I mean, Delaware County parks, it's prohibited in Delaware County
Thank
parks.
you. Yes, of course.
Well, what is the expected benefit of having the beer garden at Morton?
Attendance,
Attendance.
for one thing.
The objective.
People are
yes,
interested about it.
The objective of Morton Day is to try and get as many people in town to be in the same place at the same time. And so any of these sorts of things are being used as ways to attract them. So, you know, that's what it's about. We wanted to do it last year, but we didn't quite get it together in time.
You know, it takes a month approval of the LCD.
So now we have it all lined up already. And these people are experienced at doing these kinds of events.
And who are these people?
This is Oliver's on Morton Avenue, Oliver's Restaurant.
Where?
Oliver's. It's
The new place.
It's the
The
place.
newest
that-
of the.
It used to be Greens.
Dominic?
Oh.
Dominic's, I'm sorry. Oh, yes, Dominic's. Oliver's is next door. No, I'm sorry, no, it's Dominic's. I keep getting confused. Sorry about that.
What approval do we need by the LCD?
They need it. It's under their restaurant license, they're permitted to have service off-site up to like 20 times a year or something. So they have to identify the date and location, file approval with the LCD.
Well, they would have to do that before the ordinance was officially
Well,
amended.
that's right. The
They would be
main-
doing that at their risk.
Yes. I
How
don't
many
think
people
they
will be
will.
allowed when alcoholic beverages will be served?
What's outside, so.
How many people are gonna be allowed? It should have permit.
I don't know what.
50, 25?
As many people as we can serve, I don't know. I don't know if there's a number.
And I'll tell you, just had trouble with that. I'll tell you.
IDs will be checked and all that sort of thing.
And you can't check them when it's a free-for-all.
I don't see it as being a free-for-all. We'll make sure we've got it under control, we've got it located in the right place, the police will be there. It's a safety day anyway, the police will be there. And I think that anybody that causes any trouble would be sorry for doing that. The people who are, the business that's involved has done events through the Philadelphia area, Penn's Landing, places like that. They have a lot of experience doing these kinds of things. We're working closely with them to set it up correctly. Now, I know this is the first time we're doing this, so it's kind of a little bit of an experiment, I'd say, but
A little bit.
yeah, I mean, this whole thing is an experiment, really.
I don't think we should go down this road. I mean, it's been well established, and I think the parks all over the county have said you just don't do it.
Well,
And
actually,
they did that because of, for a good reason.
To disagree with you, these events, first of all, the alcohol sales in the state have changed. The regulations have changed over the last 2 years, and it has made different communities, given them the opportunity that traditionally they haven't had in this state, and they are doing it more. I know that they're doing it in, I think they're doing it in Norwood. So they are, I mean, it isn't completely unprecedented. It's actually something that's happening more and more as we move forward.
All summer, it gets hard for me to get here at the meetings because every Wednesday night, media opens their State Street to outdoor service, including alcohol. And they get a great crowd, it helps their businesses again.
Well, as you brought up, it is a bit experimental, so I would think that keeping it as limited, at least at first, is probably ideal, and then again, revisiting it later once we have kind of, some feedback or some, experience with it.
Yeah, I think, I think that I'd like to. I mean, there is an interest in town to do these sorts of things. Like I say, it's kind of like the direction of small boroughs around here in Pennsylvania and things like that to try to do more things like this. Especially, it's getting really popular. I was kind of surprised at how popular it was as we were getting going in this, but we aren't the first ones to do this for sure.
Chief, do you think that it would be manageable from a practical standpoint?
I would proceed with caution, like Mrs. Young said at first, and it could be manageable, but I would proceed with caution and like to look at a plan before I can make a decent decision.
Right, we need to work with you closely to make it work, be able to maintain who's doing what and all that other
It
stuff.
wouldn't be fair for me to say yes or no at this point until I've really seen the plan, but I would definitely proceed with caution.
Mhm.
Can we require they have security personnel when they have these things?
No, we're not talking about any public person wanting to rent the park, correct? We're talking only borough sanctioned events?
That's the motion that he's made.
And this being probably the only event during the year where that would happen.
I would think that, yeah, that would certainly make sense that we'd have to have some sort of, somebody, like in this particular case, we're gonna have the police there, for the safety case.
Well, as I said too, that probably a bartender from Dominic's and then other competent adults, which would be members of council around, for instance.
Yeah, it's all gotta be put into a written policy. Who's gotta be standing there at the booth and, how, they're going to check IDs and whatnot. And that,
Yeah,
as
and
the chief
also-
said, the chief will need to review and approve that.
Right, and also, like, whether or not we should have a limit,
Well, how would you manage that?
if we wanted to do that, we'd have to figure out a way to do it. I don't know how to do it. Get tickets or something. We should pass tickets around, I don't know. Just off the top of my head, I was thinking.
I would think Dominic's.
Right. Have you-
Dominic's would know how to.
I was
Right.
gonna say, have you
Because
had a
they've done it before.
conversation with Dominic?
Yes, we have.
Giving you
We haven't talked
details?
to that people.
Yeah.
Well, normally the policy is that if anybody's visibly intoxicated, they're not served.
Right.
Somebody had a comment?
I'm Rodina Lloyd, 406 School Street. I was thinking, when you were talking about what was the limit, was it gonna be like posted wherever they are, the limit they have, and I guess they would track it with, a stamp? The person would have to check with a stamp as far as like the limit that they've had so far. So I guess the limit would be like, what, 3 or 2?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, you could do it. Something like that.
All right, so are we talking at this point of doing this as a one-time experimental thing, and we would have to do a whole ordinance just for that one-time experimental?
Well, it sounds as though
Trial
there's
basis.
a time limit, Bob, or how much time do you have before you would lose the opportunity?
We have to act by next week.
So, it sounds like, yeah.
In time.
Well, it sounds like the only possible comfort level of council would be to do it as a one-time experimental thing. Mr. McGrath, are you amenable to making a motion to that effect?
Actually, that was my original intention. I didn't really want to take it any further than that at this point, because I understand that it's in committee and committee's being shifted around. And there's a lot of other things. We're renovating the hall and things like that, so the story gets bigger and bigger as you get involved in it, trying to figure out as we move forward. But from that point of view, I think it's an excellent opportunity to get some answers and experience, and see how the fair people of Morton handle something like that.
I mean, there will be not insignificant cost to get the ordinance drafted and, put into place, but, if it's.
Is it possible, Mr. Ewald, before you go through all your work, just get us a model ordinance of somebody that has it?
I can look.
It could be circulated, but we'd have to be ready to advertise an ordinance by next week.
I propose that we,
Advertise what? We don't have one.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we would need, if the model ordinance could be circulated, but then Mr. Ewald would have to have a proposed ordinance prepared before next Wednesday.
I'm saying if he could put it on hold, put it on the back burner, we get a model ordinance and everybody goes over it, and then maybe we don't really know what we're talking about here as far as how somebody pulls it off and how it's been successful.
Could we do like an ordinance where it's allowed at borough-sponsored events, at the approval of council per event, so that it's not redrafting the ordinance every single time, but then bringing the vote for the event before council.
Well,
It would be setting up a precedent, though, that I don't know.
we've never done, we haven't done that in other things? We don't have any other ordinances that say that we, that we have to vote every time we do something?
I'm sure there are.
Like, we do it on
But that goes further than what I just.
street parties, don't we? Don't we have to approve a
Yes.
street party?
Yep.
But that goes further than what I just said. That wouldn't, what Mrs. Young just said would be potentially for more than just this event, rather than
Well, that's right,
just
that's
doing
another
it
thing. That's
on a
another thing.
trial basis for this event. So
Right.
that would be two different proposals.
And I was just thinking from a cost basis, if
Well-
we're having it drafted
Mhm.
and not having to have it drafted every single time, having it drafted, but it has to come back before council.
Well, can we do some sort of a motion stating like,
But I can essentially draft an ordinance that has, two alternatives or three alternatives, and next week, you can review it and discuss it, and you can cross out, or you can elect to do the whole thing, or you can cross out a portion, and as long as you give me clear direction on what you're crossing out, I can make that change and advertise it.
I don't think that's a good situation. The monthly meeting is for what you establish here at the agenda, and then you go ahead with that. So, I mean, this should be done in the same fashion. You give us the time for the next agenda meeting in October. And
we don't have time though?
Why don't we have time?
Because the work day is October 12th.
Well, then you do more than next year.
Well, we'd like to do it this year
We're gonna do it next year.
and do it next year. I mean, we're doing
I don't think we
this
have to
work day
rush
every
through
year.
because you want to sue for more than that. Okay?
Well, that's the borough event.
Well, that's Mr. Lillycraft's opinion.
Absolutely.
And, that's fine. But as I understand it, Mr. McGrath intends to make a motion to have the ordinance drafted for review next week. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, if you're going to make that motion, go ahead.
Okay, I think we discussed this, huh? Okay, I move that we instruct Mr. Ewald to advertise,
Advertise.
to draft an ordinance, to advertise. Yes.
So that would be to draft an ordinance that would permit the use of alcohol at borough-sponsored events as, subject to the approval of Borough Council. And that would be for next week for you to review and discuss. There's no, you can decide next week whether you want to advertise it.
We'll have it prior to the meeting night, right?
I can get it to you prior to the meeting.
I will second the motion.
All right, there's a motion that's been made and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? Comments? I'll just comment that, my vote for this motion won't prejudice my vote next week. I'm not sure how I'll vote next week as far as to actually advertise the ordinance. It'll depend on what the content of the ordinance is. Any other questions, comments?
And the ordinance wouldn't actually be voted on until the first meeting in October, right?
Correct.
So that does serve a little bit.
Well,
It gets us another month.
That's the
Yeah.
process. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have to decide next week before seeing it, we could discuss it.
Okay.
All right, I'm finished.
If there's no other questions, can we have a roll call, please?
Marius Amino,
Yes.
Michelle Miller,
Yes.
Michelle Roberts.
Yes.
Natalie Young,
Yes.
Bob McGrath,
Yes.
and Charlie Lillycraft.
No.
Motion carries 5-1, I believe. Mr. McGrath, do you have anything else on community and economic development?
No, thank you, I think for now, that's.
Mr. Ewald, you're clear on what your charges and that?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go on to public health and sanitation and recycling. Mrs. Roberts, please.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I would just like to propose tentatively our recycling committee meeting. I had confirmed that we were going to go with the 18th, but I see that that's the budget session. So I would like to propose the 19th at 7 p.m. here at the Borough. Business in that order would be to address the issue concerning the trash and the recycling contracts, which we know that we have the 4th-year option, so those things have to be reviewed. Because we have 30 days prior to the contract expiration date to go back to the proposed haulers that we do use now. So I think fiscally and financially, that will probably be the best solution, but that'll be reviewed in our meeting. Also, we have to address our last letter that we have to provide to the residents with the containers. So that also has to be done. And also just that the residents know that their 3rd quarterly sewer bill is due September the 16th. Okay. And I believe that is all that I have right now.
All right, thank you.
And we, I just said, we are also, we plan to have the recycling cans at
the event.
At the event.
Thank you. On ordinance, Mrs. Young, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I have to discuss the approval of ordinance 762, which is the vehicle impound release fee. And I know we've kind of discussed different things with regard to the towing and impounding of vehicles by the police. And I believe that this particular ordinance has to do with the fee that the borough would charge. Mr. Ewald, do you have any comment there?
Yeah, this is just authorizing the police department to charge a fee to recover the time cost for when an officer is required to do a investigation or a review of records in order to allow for a vehicle that has been impounded because of an arrest to be released. And they have to spend time checking to make sure that there's the appropriate, authorized person taking it, that the, explain what they had to go through.
So, well, we have to go through checking, verify that the car's insured, the registered owner is actually picking the vehicle up. We can't release it to somebody who's not the proper owner. We have to check registrations, and we have to check driver's license. It's all time consuming. It takes, sometimes we sit on the phone with insurance companies for quite a while. So we just want to recoup our time spent for this.
So this sets the fee at $20 and then allows for you from time to time to adjust that fee by resolution. That has been advertised and it'll be considered for approval at next week's meeting.
So if there's nothing else on that, the only other thing that I had is that I'm thinking of doing a law and ordinance committee meeting mid-October, now that we kind of have the current set structure of it, but I'll come up with a date for next week's meeting. That's all I have.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation, Mayor Rapp.
Thank you, Mario. I just wanted to say that we had our Morton Night at the Phillies, and it was a success. We had 50 tickets, and we had 50 people come in the game, and I think everyone enjoyed themselves. We got to do tours of the Hall of Fame Club, and we had a good time, and the weather was good, and the Phillies won. So it was a wonderful, winning thing. So it was a good time. For our first one, hopefully we can do that every year.
Great.
The other thing I wanted to talk about was the cool off with the cops. Really, I should have mentioned this during public safety, since Ian, one of our police officers, initiated this. But that was a complete success also. I think Mr. Softy said he gave close to 130 ice cream cones. Is that right, Joe?
160, I believe the number was.
160, okay. And there were a lot of people up there with a lot of white and chocolate mustache. So, yeah, so we had a good time, and it was well attended by everyone.
We budgeted $100, and we went over that budget, and Mr. Salty actually donated the rest of the ice cream. Which was a nice gesture on his behalf.
And the only other thing I want to say on Parks and Recreation is that on Monday, next Monday, the 9th day of September, we will have our Parks and Recreation Committee meeting here at 7 o'clock. And that's my report on Parks and Recreation.
All right, thank you. Any planning or zoning applications? Any old business from members of council? New business from members of council?
Yes, if I can just make a couple announcements. So Saturday, September 7th, this Saturday, we're having a joint yard garage sale with Rutledge Community Yard Sale from 9 to 2. So anyone who wants to put something out at their house, a table, trying to get rid of some stuff around the house, or even some treasures you might want to get rid of. Hopefully we'll have, hopefully it'll be well attended. It looks like the weather's going to be great. People will be driving around both communities, Rutledge and Morton. And hopefully it goes well for all the people that are taking the time to put all their treasures together. The other thing I wanted to mention, AMVETS is having a Crab Fest on the 15th, and it's $30 per person. If anyone's interested, they can visit the AMVETS for tickets for that. And lastly, I want to talk about the kids are back in school. Schools are back. Crossing guards are back. Traffic is back in the morning. So just be safe driving. Now the kids are back and traffic is going to be worse again. So welcome back to the teachers and the kids. That's all I have to say.
I'm sorry, I want to make a comment about the yard sale.
Yes.
Rutledge does this, has done this for several years, and very organized, and they have people list their addresses, whether they hand out a map with little dots on it or a list of addresses. If Morton wants to be a part of this and do the same thing, perhaps on the same day as Rutledge does it every year, I'd like to propose that the community organize it, not council. It'd be something that somebody in the area would like to do that. It couldn't be that much work, but it's certainly not at the time of year with Morton Day and other activities with the council that we want to be involved in. But it's a wonderful opportunity that perhaps we could see if anybody's interested in getting involved in helping to organize, something for next year.
Yes, we found out last meeting from the fire department that this was taking place. I announced at that time I would follow up with Rutledge. And Rutledge is not really involved. It's a community affair. So they put it together and we could do the same thing here. We didn't have a chance to get all the addresses of people that are doing it, but at least we're on board and we'll have a fun day. And next year, if we get on it the same time Rutledge does, and we can put a list of addresses also.
So who is organizing this?
It's just the community.
No, community, but is that, are there specific people, particular people, or?
In Morton? No, just in Morton. I guess I was the one who spearheaded it because of the announcement from the fire department last month.
So as
But
far
no,
as-
some people in the community have asked me about yard sales and garage sales. And so I sent an email saying this is an opportunity we have, and they said we'd love to do that. So it's a community fair. It's not something that council was involved in.
And I had asked a question earlier, just to reiterate my question, and the answer that I received was they don't need permits to participate. Nobody needs a permit or anything to participate.
I don't believe so. No.
All right, thank you. Any other new business? Go to open discussion. To address council, Mr. Lee.
Michael Lee, 123 West Sylvan Avenue, Morton, Pennsylvania. Good evening, everyone. I attended the August 22nd, 2019 meeting of the Springfield School District Board of School Directors. I have copies of the agenda meeting for the members of council. With permission to approach the dais, they can be passed down.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Lillicrest, if you'll be good enough to do the honors. Thank you, sir. The only big thing that came out of the meeting was that the board approved the purchase of the Archbishop Prendergast property from the Archdiocese of Philadelphia to be used by the Delaware County Community College. I believe it was passed on a 5-2 vote. One director abstained and one was absent. So that was the only big thing that came out of the meeting that night. The next meeting is September 24th, 2019 at 11 p.m. in the administration building. If you've read yesterday's Daily Times, it looks like the proposed new school is well on its way to being opened up by September of next year. So let's see what comes of that. I've heard, a couple of my neighbors complaining that they don't want it. And I said, well, that train left the station back in 2015. There's nothing that any of us can do about it now. I do have an objection to selling liquor at the borough-sponsored events. I just don't have a good feeling about that.
It's beer.
Well,
It's beer.
well, beer. Well,
Okay.
well, to me it's the same thing.
But it's not the same thing, though.
Okay. Well,
I mean,
okay.
You didn't specify
Well,
that it's just beer, though.
Yeah.
we'll agree. Well,
Yeah.
well, still people can get intoxicated from beer. Trust me, I know that one from sad to say, personal experience, and adults who've been in that situation. Well, there's residents of Morton who live within stumbling distance of their home. Too many might think that they can drive better drunk than anybody else can sober, and you don't know what could happen. Plus, I agree with Mr. Lillicrest. There might be some people there that might think they're a modern-day version of Mike Tyson or Rocky Marciano and it cause a ruckus. I just don't have a good feel for that. But that's just my opinion. But I do have one question. Occasionally, I get people coming to my door trying to convert me to their faith. Do these people need a permit to go door to door proselytizing people?
No.
Okay, I was just curious about that one.
Don't answer the door.
Yeah, but that's well. Usually, my luck, they catch me just as I'm walking out the door with my dogs.
Yeah.
But that's it goes. So I was just curious about that one. Okay, so I don't have anything more to bring up for council or any other consideration. So thank you all for listening. Good evening. Thank you all for listening. Good night. May God bless all of you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address council?
I just wanted to answer something. It's interesting to me. A few years ago, I don't know the current state of these ordinances, and I could be wrong, but in my research, media has an ordinance against being in the public with alcohol. So I don't know how they worked it out. Maybe they changed the ordinance in the meantime or all that, because now they're doing all this stuff on State Street. But the interesting thing is, Morton doesn't. Which means that it's still illegal to walk down the street. It is, isn't it? It's still illegal to walk down the street with a beer in Morton. So having said that, have you seen much trouble with people walking around in your experience?
Occasionally, yes.
Okay, yeah.
And it's something that I would, in the future, like to address with council, the open container law.
Mm-hmm.
We've been lacking that for a long time.
Of course, it's illegal in the car.
That's correct.
Well, that's a state law. Okay, I just wanted, all right, thank you.
Well, if they're disorderly, they can be charged with disorderly conduct.
That's correct. And the parks, we're not allowed, we do have an exception for the parks. That we're in the parks for alcohol.
Anyone else wish to address council? So it's time. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.